welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name's Chelsea, and if you're new around here, we like to do beauty related content on this channel. If that's something that you like, then please hit subscribe, and if you're already subscribed, then please click on the little bell and you'll be notified of every time that I upload. So in today's videos, I thought we would just rate out of 10 every palette that I tested last year, which have all got videos on apart from 2, but they are mentioned in videos, like favourite videos. What I'll do is I'm going to go in order of palette that I tried, rate it, show you the look that I created, and then go to the next one. There are 35 palettes to get through, so I'm just going to whiz through it so it's not a mega long video for you. But some of these palettes I forgot about, to be honest, and that will affect the rating of each one. So yes, if you want to see all the palettes that I tried in 2021, then please stay tuned. So if you're wondering about this makeup look, is with the PLOUISE Love Affair palette, and it should be up next. So the first palette that I tried in 2021 was the Morphe and JACLYN Hill palette. So this is what it looks like. It's a really beautiful colour story. Purples, oranges, yellows, nudes. There's quite a lot to play around with, and I made a monochromatic red look with it. Shadows are super pigmented, shimmers are really nice as well, and I really like the colour story, so I rated this an 8 out of 10. The next palette I tried out was the Made by Mitchell Mini Mitchell Volume 1 palette, and if I'm honest, I haven't reached for this since. But this is a pressed pigment palette, really gorgeous shades in here, like really unique shades, but I think they are a little bit random, and I think that's why I never reached for it. So the only reason why I would reach for this are for these 4 shimmers. That'll be literally it. And I feel like a lot of the time you've got to have another palette to go with this to create a good look. I created quite a unique look, which I'll insert a photo of. So overall, I'd probably rate this a 5 out of 10, purely because I never reached for it. And the only reason why I've not decluttered it is purely for those shimmers. Next up, we have the KASH Beauty Crystal Nights palette. This is annoying because the mattes are so good and these neutral shimmer shades are really nice, but you buy this palette mainly for these pops of colour down below, and yet they're crap. Like, especially that one, you can see how crumbly it is all in the pan, and it really did put me off. So yeah, I'm only going to rate this one a 6 out of 10. And here is the look that I created. I mainly used the blue shimmer over the lid with like neutral brown in the crease, because that's the look that I was going for, but it was just really hard to work with. Next up, we have Book of Magic. Now, I've used this a few times. I actually used this for like a Disney themed collaboration this year, and I mainly done looks with it last year, but I'll insert all the looks. I absolutely love this colour story. This is in my trolley to play with more, but I am going to rate this a 9 out of 10, purely because it would be 10 out of 10 because I absolutely love the formula. The shimmers are beautiful. It's just such a beautiful palette, but the fact that it's limited edition and you can no longer get it obviously knocks it down a peg. But yeah, absolutely love this palette. Another high contender for a monochrome look is the Jeffree Star Blood Money palette. It is absolutely unreal formula, really luxe packaging as well. It's a little bit bulky, but I have got bulkier palettes, so this one does sit in my trolley. But yeah, absolutely love this formula. The shimmer shadows in this as well, incredible. And the mattes all blended out like a dream. You can create so many different green eyeshadow looks. So whenever I do a green eyeshadow look now, I always reach for this one. But yeah, I'd probably rate this a 9 out of 10, purely because I only reach for it if I use green eyeshadow. That's the only time I reach for it, and I haven't done a lot of, well, actually I have done a lot of green looks, but that's testing out other palettes. So yeah, I've not reached for it that much. I should reach for it a lot more. And next we've got the VIEVE Essentials palette. Now this, I absolutely love the packaging. I love the fact that you can twist it all the way around, and the mattes are so good. This was literally in my everyday drawer and I used it all the time, especially little dent in it, but Lava Rock and Good Night, Delicious, and Buff I used quite a lot. Oh, and So Shy as well. That's a really nice matte, but that is what it's for. The matte shadows are really good. The shimmer shadows do let it down because they're very dry, which makes this down to a 7 out of 10, even though I do use this quite often. But the shimmer shadows, I usually get excited by shimmer shadows, but shimmer shadows literally let it down. And then next up we have the COLOURPOP Wild Child palette. I absolutely loved this. I rated this, I think it was like a 7 out of 10. I'm just going to insert a photo. The reason why, I love this palette, really good depth as well, especially for COLOURPOP. The shimmer shadow and the pressed glitter is unreal. I've used it on my friend before, I've used it on myself. It's a really good neutral brown palette. However, what lets it down is the packaging. The pan has fallen out and it's smashed the shadow, and now it's loose in here and I have to keep it in here, so I haven't used it since. So that is one of the reasons why it is rated down to 7 out of 10, because yeah, otherwise it would have been a lot higher. But that is probably my favourite, or one of my favourite ColourPop palettes. And then we've got KASH Beauty Secret Treasure palette. So I rate this an 8 out of 10 because the shades are really good if you want a neutral look. When I do a neutral look for going out, this is one of the contenders that I may pull out. The mattes blend effortlessly. The shimmer shades are okay. They're a lot better in this one than what they are in Crystal Nights, even though Crystal Nights came after this one. But yeah, overall a really good neutral palette, so definitely do rate this if you want to try out KASH Beauty. Next up we've got the PLOUISE Date Night palette. I'll insert a photo because I did actually declutter this, which is why I've put it down to a 5 out of 10, because even though the formula was really good, I just didn't like the colour story. So yeah, that's the reason why I decluttered that, but here is some photographs. Then next from the Love Tapes, we got the PLOUISE Vacation. So this, oh my god, these shimmer shades are stunning. This one is probably my all-time favourite shimmer shade. It's like the pink coral reflective gold. I do only rate this a 6 out of 10 purely because I feel like there's not that much you can create with these, because a lot of the shades are quite similar and there's not really much depth in there. Considering what they're like now, the Love Tapes palettes are so much better now because they do actually have depth and such a range. But this is a really nice palette if you want that glowy, orangey, you know, that holiday style with like the wash of the lid, which is what I basically done here. But yeah, other than that, I only really reach for this in the summer. Then we've got Wedding Wish, so I actually rate this an 8 out of 10. I would rate it a little bit more if there was just a darker shade than that, but PLOUISE did answer my prayers. Further on down in this video you'll understand. But this is a really nice bridal palette, and I've used this palette when I've done clients before, and it is such a gorgeous palette for that. So yeah, that's why I rate it an 8 out of 10. Next up we've got the New Romantic by BEAUTYBAY. This is again like Book of Magic, limited edition. You can't buy it anymore, which is why I rate it a 7 out of 10. It's a really nice colour story. You've got your black, you've got your pale shade, you've got a lot of depth, and you can create quite a few different looks, even though it is mainly like pinks and reds in here. But there's so many different tones of that's why there's a bit of variety. Yeah, it's a really lovely palette. Next up we've got the mini elf palettes. So these are the mint from the mint collection. So we've got Mint to Be, chocolate mint. So I actually prefer chocolate mint to be, mainly because you've got these neutral shades here, which I'll actually use more than what I would these ones. But the shimmer shadow in this one is so beautiful and unique, so I rate these a 6 out of 10 because these are so good, so pigmented, so buttery and soft, but I just don't really reach for them anymore, which is why they're a 6 out of 10. Next up we have the Made by Mitchell Feet on the Ground palette. So I actually did, when I done the video for this, I rated this a 7 out of 10, no 10 out of 10 for the mattes, because the mattes blended so beautifully, but what let this palette down was the shimmers. Why? Usually shimmers are the best thing about the palette, and they do look really pretty in the pans, but I just thought they were really underwhelming. They're very dry. Like that, it's just basically, that one's not too bad, but that one, like they're just so dry and underwhelming, and I just don't understand, because I feel like that's really let this palette down. Plus, I just don't like the packaging. I absolutely hate the packaging of this one. I'm actually going to rate this a 5 out of 10, which is really annoying because the mattes blend out beautifully. But yeah, don't like the packaging. I just feel like the layout of all the shades just doesn't make sense for me, and so I never reach for it because I can just never think of what to create with it. It muffles my brain up, to be honest. And then we've got the mini Blood Sugar palette. So I rated this a 7 out of 10, mainly because I absolutely love this ruby red eyeshadow. That was the start of the show, and plus I don't have the original Blood Sugar palette. This is just incredible. incredible. Look at that. It's literally ruby red. The only thing that I don't really like about this palette is this shade here. It's just random. I don't get it. And I wish it had a darker shade than that in the palette, so then I could just use one palette to create look. This is what I like, and I like a really dark outer corner, but that's just personal preference. But other than that, I think the formula is really good. A few of these are very hard pressed, but the shimmers are so beautiful. Then next up we have the Beauty Bay Fiery palette. I thought I would use this more than what I actually do. I've only used it once, but I think it's such a big palette. It's at the bottom of the drawer. Yeah, I do feel like I need to use this a bit more because it has got a lot of lovely shades in here. The formula is excellent. The shimmer shades are so buttery, but some of them are a little bit crumbly. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. Plus, I don't really like the look that I created with it when I done my videos, so I think I might play with it. Next up, we have the KIMCHI and NAOMI Smalls collab palette, 2 Queens and 1 Desert. So this doesn't actually come with a mirror. I think it's gone down in my estimates, but the shade range is really good. You can tell that it is a collaboration because you've got these 2 rows that is like NAOMI's side, and then these 2 rows is like KIMCHI's side. And I think that's a really good concept to have when you're doing a collab palette, so you can see the best of both partners or whatever. Reasonable price, really good shade range, and it done the job actually. It was actually a really nice palette to play around with. Again, I do want to reach for it more because there are so many different looks that you can create with this palette. I like the fact that it's got a black, but the one shade it is missing is a white, which is what I said before. So yeah, that's why I'm going to rate it a 6 out of 10. Then next up we've got the Beauty Bay Utopia palette. Now this palette is so pigmented, so pigmented. It's such a good addition to have like for other palettes, and pigment alone I'm rating it a 7 out of 10, but because it is such a small palette and you do need other palettes to really create most looks, that's the reason why it's a 7 out of 10. But if it had more shade than this, then it would 100% be 10 out of 10. Then next up we have the SOPH and Revolution collab. This is her 3rd one with them, and it is a really nice palette. I like the colour story, and I really love that shade because you can pair it with whatever other colour and it will absolutely transform the look and look different each way. Like you can do it with the pinks, the blue, the greens, the neutrals, whatever. Like that shade is the star of the show. But other than that, I don't really reach for this palette, and I think the mattes are a little bit wish-washy. So yeah, but I do like the fact it's got a black and a white, which is what I love in all palettes. But other than that, I'm going to rate it a 5 out of 10 because, yeah, I've got other palettes that are better. Then next up, we've got the P. Louise Cancelled palette, or Read All About It palette. I'm rating this a 4 out of 10. If I'm honest, I don't like this packaging. I absolutely hate this packaging. I don't like the fact that the mirror's distorted and it's quite small as well. Like, I know it's only a statement mirror. I like the shade selection. The shade selection is really nice, although like there's quite a few wish-washy colours. But then you have got transitional, medium, and then your dark, and then you've got a few different tones. So that's why I rate it high, mainly because of shade selection. I thought it was quite difficult to blend, and the shimmers were really underwhelming. And I don't know. It's good for a nude palette, don't get me wrong, but I definitely got better nude palettes. So yeah, I'm tempted to declutter this, but I don't know yet. And then we've got another baddie, the Melt Cosmetics Mary Jane palette, and just look how messy the palette is. Now, I'm putting this at a 3 out of 10, which is annoying because I absolutely love Melt Cosmetics. I love the packaging, it's very sleek, the shade selection looks beautiful, and like it's compared to the NATASHA DENONA GLAM, and obviously it's a little bit cheaper, not by much, only by about a tenner, but this is £49, I think it is, like, yeah, nearly 50 quid. But the shimmer shades were so hard to work with. I filmed my video 3 times. 3 times it took for me to create a look that I liked because it was just awful. The only reason why I've still got it in my collection is because it looks pretty. And the mattes aren't too bad. Some of the shimmer shades are alright, but they're just, I don't know if that's going to pick up on camera, but they're just so clumpy, and it's so hard to actually apply this to your eye and without it being clumpy on your eye and just falling over everywhere and just sticking. So yeah, a 3 out of 10 purely because it looks pretty. And then we've got the Revolution Bratz collab. I'm going to rate this a 5 out of 10 because I love the fact it's Bratz. It's very nostalgic. I like the autumnal colour story, and this shade here was my standout shade, and it can be used as a highlighter or an eyeshadow. It's such a beautiful shade, but I just never reached for it. And I've just really gone off the Revolution quality. And then we're going back up in the world. We've got the ABH Norvina Volume 5. So this was a stunning palette. It's really, really beautiful, especially if you want to do a purple look. You've got all your purples in here, you've got different tones, you've got light shades, you've got dark shades. I do wish there was a darker shade than this. I always do the black. I'm pretty sure there's a black in volume 1. Yeah, and I love the pressed glitter shades as well. They're very fun. Really cute. I like that these neutral shades aren't like your normal neutrals, like which are browns. They're more of like a purple neutral, like they've got purple undertones, a bit like an aubergine colour, which I think is really cohesive with this palette, because at first I thought they were browns and purples. To me, I wouldn't really put them together. But yeah, they are actually cohesive with the purples because they have a purple undertone. Really like the packaging. Obviously it's quite expensive palette, but it's so pigmented, and yeah, so I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. I would give it 10 out of 10, but just don't reach for it as much as I should. We've got the P. Louise All I See Is Signs palette. Honey, this palette is absolutely stunning. I literally love the packaging. I love the corals, the browns, the yellows. The shimmer shades are chef's kiss. I'm going to rate this a 9.5 out of 10. We've got a dark shade, we've got light shades. The packaging is a little bit bulky for my liking, if I'm honest, and this just got to really hold it for it to stand up. But other than that, it's such a beautiful palette, and I absolutely loved the looks that I created. It blended effortlessly, and yeah, this was my first favourite P. Louise palette, if I'm honest. And then we've got the Dream Big Manifest palette. So I actually had low expectations with this palette, purely because I've seen so many mixed reviews, but I actually really like it. So it says that there were some creams, shadows, and I don't really know what ones they are. I've swatched it all, I've played around with it, I don't know what ones they are, so that brings it down a little bit. So I'm going to rate this a 7.5 out of 10, because I don't like the layout. It hurts my brain, but some of the shades are really pretty, and it is a really good pigmented palette. I had no problems with the blending. So many different shades and stuff to create, but then I feel like there are some shades missing that help blend out other shades. You do have a lot of depth in here though, so I would really pair this with another palette perhaps. And then we've got the Made by Mitchell Milk palette. This I have a love-hate relationship with, because I've tried to use it a few times and it just didn't work for me. But then I recorded the video, that worked okay, but again, that did take me a few attempts to get it right, because some of the shades are coming out patchy, they weren't coming out true to shade, like true to colour. Some of the shades are really pretty in here. I don't know, it's really hard. So yeah, I'm going to rate this a 6 out of 10. I'm still on the fence about Mitchell's brand. Like, I absolutely love his blush, love his brushes and things like that, but his palettes, I don't know, I really want to love them, but I feel like the more I compare them to other palettes, the more that I'm not liking them as much. But yeah, I still got some more videos to create with this. I still want to create a neutral look, and I still want to create like a Barbie pink look. But the look that I created last time, the more I look at it, the more I don't like it. And then we've got the Stone Cold Fox palette from ColourPop. Now, this didn't come out this year. I know that, but I don't think it did. But I only got it, well, I think I got it end of last year, but I didn't actually try it until middle of this year. Like, I had it for ages, and now this is a staple palette of mine. It doesn't have a mirror, I'm not fussed about that. I'm really not fussed, but I just love these shades. I love the cool toned at the moment, but these aren't too cool tones. They're just obviously cool toned browns with pops of like silver in there. But when I go to do like going out makeup, if I'm going out, or if I just want to flush through the crease like for work, I do tend to pick up this palette quite a lot. I really use Quarry Days, so this shade, this shade here, which is just like in the crease or wash all over the lid. I use a lot of these bottom shades just to do outer edge or like lash line and stuff like that. And I use this Dreamful, even though it's a sequin shade, but it's a really nice white shade. And you can't really see the hints of glitter in it, which is what I prefer because I wanted a more matte shade. But yeah, absolutely really love this palette, and like, look, that's how a shimmer should be. That is how a shimmer should be. It's literally like liquid silver. It's so nice and it's so pigmented and so easy to blend out with. So I am actually rating this a 10 out of 10. My first 10 out of 10 palette so far. But yeah, this is a staple of mine. I'm so glad I finally started using it and I use it all the time. Definitely recommend this. And then we've got the Unicorn Cosmetics Wicked palette. I think this is discontinuing soon. So I did get it for a really good bargain. I don't think it's been discontinued yet, but on the fence about this, if I'm honest. I really liked the look that I created with it, but I did have like pigments and stuff as well. The mattes were really good, but the shimmers were so underwhelming. What is wrong with all these palettes? I buy palettes for the shimmers mainly because I've got loads of mattes, and shimmers really draw me in, and just these weren't really that good. You've got to really rub hard. The dark ones aren't too bad, but these light ones, like that silver, like that's barely coming off. And that's mainly because my finger's stained. It's literally barely coming off. But other than that, the mattes are actually really good though in this palette, and I know that you can get it for a bargain, which is why I will rate this a 6.5 out of 10. Now next up we have another serious contender. So this, the STACEYMARIE Carnival Antidote palette. Everyone and their cat's mum brought this palette and I absolutely love this colour story. It's probably my favourite colour story of the Carnival palettes. It's really up my street. You've got a lot of the grungy green, you've got a lot of the warm tones of berries, you've got this middle section here which is like bridal stuff, and oh my god, these shimmer shades. This is how you do a shimmer shade, guys. Oh my god, look at that. They're so buttery and pigmented, and yeah, I use this palette quite a lot. It's just so beautiful. So I am actually going to rate this a 10 out of 10 because yeah, it's a stunning palette. I've done a couple of videos on this. It's definitely a staple and it's definitely a necessity to have with the other palettes. I absolutely love this. God, the last few palettes that I've got here are just really strong contenders. I feel like the palette choices got a lot better throughout the year. Next we've got Jeffree Star Weirdo. Featured this in one of my monthly favourites. I love this palette. This is a palette that I use quite a lot if I really want that grungy, smoky look. I'm rating this a 9 out of 10. It would be a 10 out of 10, but I feel like these two shades are very similar and it is very limited with what you can do with this palette, and I only really use this palette for one look, which is what I created the video on, and that's a look that sometimes I use when I go out. But other than that, it is a beautiful palette. The pigment is chef's kiss. You've got a lot of depth in here. You've got this one beautiful shimmer shadow which is literally like liquid silver as well, and you've got a white, you've got a black, you've got burgundy, so there is a little bit of a range. It's a beautiful palette. It's really handy to take away with me. It's very small, compact, got a mirror in, really good quality, and yeah, really love this palette. Next up we've got BEAUTYBAY and Jade. This is a stunning palette. Really beautiful, really good formula. This is probably my favourite large palette from BEAUTYBAY. Yeah, they're just, at first I was a bit like, I don't know, but then the more I looked at it, the more I wanted it, and as soon as I got it, it is so much more prettier in real life. Even the packaging is prettier in real life. You just need this palette. I feel like it's one of those ones that's got everything. It's got light, it's got dark, it's got shades to blend out other shades, it's got the shimmer to match those shades, so you can have really cohesive looks, but then there's such a range of looks that you can create. It's very versatile, and yeah, I absolutely love this palette, so I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. Then we've got another PLOUISE palette. This is Beneath the Sheets. So this is an all matte chocolate brown palette, and this is the one that answered my PLOUISE prayers when I wanted chocolate rich dark browns, and she definitely delivered it. Yeah, I use this palette quite a lot. This has been in my everyday makeup drawer as well. It's just so nice. Like these mattes are so buttery and so pigmented. They blend out like an absolute dream. Are you going to focus? They blend out like an absolute dream. Such an easy palette to work with and such a staple as well. This will even be handy for like makeup artists because a lot of people love like brown smoky looks and stuff, and this is a perfect neutral palette and it's only £17. So yeah, this is going to get a 10 out of 10 from me. Even if it's got no shimmer shades, The mattes just really stand out for me, and it's a palette that I constantly reach for at the moment. Next up, we've got the Wilderness palette. Now, I absolutely love this palette. Again, love the formula, love these shimmer shades, they're beautiful. The mattes are gorgeous. It's such a pigmented palette. Yeah, the shimmers are so foiled. The mattes blend out like a dream. The only thing is I'm just not too keen on this bottom row with this palette. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. But if it was all cohesive, like if there was another row, other colours other than warm tones, then I would have given it a 10 out of 10. But I just don't like this bottom row in with this. Like this bottom row doesn't give me Wilderness vibes. And then the last palette is the NATASHA DENONA GLAM palette. It literally took me ages to play with this, and I don't know why, because I absolutely love it. Again, this has been in my everyday makeup drawer, and it's a palette that I took away when I went to Portsmouth for the weekend, because it has everything in here that I need. It has all the shades are labelled as to what they're used for, like lash line, crease, transition, centre eyelid, brow bone, blah blah, which does help me out a little bit as well. But even so, it's just a really nice cool toned palette. It's like the higher end version of the Stone Cold Fox. Obviously there's very little shades compared to that one, but yeah, the shimmer shades are beautiful. The mattes are super pigmented. They blend out really well. They're not too pigmented that it can be a struggle. It is a really nice palette, and I think it's definitely worth the price. Love this palette. I'm going to rate this a 9.5 out of 10 because the only thing that is missing is a white. So that's all my palettes rated for 2021 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like these style of videos, then please do let me know down below, and let me know what was your favourite palette from last year, as I'll be keen to see what other people thought. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, and hopefully I shall see you in the next video. Bye!